Hi everybody. Today the subject of this video for caregivers is, it was the best that I could do. It was what I knew at the time. So many caregivers look back at their choices and their decisions and they have regrets and they think, oh my gosh, I failed, or why did I do that, right? Today we're going to talk about the fact that this happens to everybody, and caregivers do the best that they can do in the moment, and you shouldn't feel guilty or have regrets or feel like you failed about that. So we're going to talk about that. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, a lot of hope, help, and support for caregivers and aging adults. Here, I invite you to click below, like this channel, share this channel with other people that you know, looking for hope, help, and support on caregiving issues, health issues, family relationships. There are over 800 videos again here answering questions caregivers ask. So let's talk about the idea of doing the best that you can day to day. If you're new to caregiving or if you've been doing this for a long time, I really do suggest not rushing into making decisions and being very thoughtful about everything that you're doing. Now, I understand you may be thinking, Pamela, I don't have time. I have so much to do. I got to be here. I got to be there. I got these lists. I'm trying to work. I got parents. I got children. I got all that. When we get in this position of like doing and doing and doing and doing and running and running and running, sometimes we can make more mistakes, right? Because we are distracted and we're not thinking things through and we're not thinking clearly. And that is how many caregivers get into the relationship with parents that you are in today. And let me use a common example, right? If you're a caregiver and you're burned out and you're exhausted and your parents have all these expectations about you and about what you're going to do, how did that happen? Did it happen overnight because they had a heart attack or something else like a stroke, and you had to show up and you had to take care of all this stuff and you just started doing? If that's the case, this is a perfect example of getting yourself into something that you have no idea of the consequences and what can happen and how it's going to work out. So in a perfect world, the minute a parent needs care, the caregiver has a very thoughtful discussion saying, gosh, mom or dad, it seems that you need a little bit of help around the house. I'm willing to do this. This is what I can do, and this is how much time I can give you. It seems like you may need more help in the future, maybe in 6 months or a year. What is your plan to get that help outside of me? Because I have a career, I have a marriage, I have children, I have a life. And while I love you and I can help you a little bit, I can't be your primary caregiver or your primary support system. So let's have discussions about what your plan is to get care for yourself. Now, this may be a shock because your parents have been thinking all of their lives, well, who's going to take care of me? Obviously, my children are going to show up. Well, obviously, that is not practical. And this can be a cultural thing. There are many cultures where this is expected, and it's expected of the youngest daughter who's going to move in and take care of her parents, and her husband's going to move in, and it's just going to be a wonderful life. Well, rarely does that happen. So as a caregiver, it's important to maintain your life separate of your parents. So having these conversations early can avoid many of the problems that if you are a caregiver today that you're experiencing because you didn't have those conversations about expectation setting and boundary setting and what you're able to do and what the responsibility of your parents is, right? So as that caregiver, again, you jumped in, you started doing all these things, you made all these decisions, and you took over your parents' life because it was easy, it needed to be done, and it was, took you less time, right? Well, where did that get you? That got you caregiving 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week. Maybe you moved your parents in with you. Maybe you moved in with your parents. Because at the time, it seemed like the thing to do. We all make these decisions because we're under pressure, we're under time constraints, and we don't think of the consequences. And we don't have an exit plan, right? So if you're in this situation today, you've got to go way back to the beginning and have that discussion that you didn't have with your parents early on, saying, you know, Mom or Dad, my fault. We should have talked about this years ago. I didn't do it, right? So I'm taking responsibility for that. But now we need to come up with a different plan for your care because I can't continue to do this. I love you dearly, but I can't be the only caregiver. So again, don't feel guilty. Don't blame yourself. Don't relive all those times where you're like, oh, I should have done that, or I should have done this. Stop making yourself feel bad for all of this, right? It happens to most caregivers, and it happens to all of us, regardless of whether we're a caregiver or not, in all areas of our life, because we just cannot possibly know what the future holds. If we did, there would be no surprises in life, right? And sometimes there's good surprises and bad surprises, but we have to manage through. So the biggest lesson here is, as a caregiver, know that whatever you're doing, you're probably doing the best you can under the situation. And situations change. Let's say that maybe you made a decision to move your parent into this care community and you thought it would be great. Well, the care community started having problems. Maybe it's sold and now there's a different management group and the rules are different and it's not what you expected. So there's all these outside circumstances up here, right, that happen that you don't control. And so again, you're making the best decisions that you can at the time that sometimes, you know, in retrospect, turn out to be not really a good decision, but how would you possibly have known? So as caregivers, it's best to be present in the moment if you can. Be very thoughtful about your decisions, about your plans, about your conversations with aging parents. You know, sometimes you may have to revisit these conversations because your parents may not understand what you're talking about, or it may not make sense, or even what your parents are telling you may not make sense. Because if they're sick and they have health problems and you've never been sick or had health problems, you have no idea what they're experiencing, the pain, the emotional distress, what they go through every day. And so it's difficult to be a caregiver for somebody when you don't understand what they're going through, right? And so on the opposite end, it's different for your parents to understand what you're going through, because when they were your age, life was so different, right? I mean, gas could have been 25 cents a gallon back then. You know, maybe they worked in a factory. You are a computer technician and you're dealing with all this technology. Your parents don't understand any of that. So there's this age gap going both ways from you to your aging parents, where you may not understand what each other's life is like or what you're going through. And so having conversations about that, saying, look, I know you cannot possibly understand this or that, but let's try to work together and work through this and be empathetic and considerate of each other's lives so that we can have a positive relationship and neither of us feel overly responsible or overly burdened because of the expectations of another person. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, my online course, my caregiver library, my podcast, The Caring Generation, links to this YouTube channel where there are over 800 videos for you. And I have a caregiver support group online. It's on Facebook. It's called The Caregiving Trap. That is named after my book, The Caregiving Trap. So again, a lot of hope, help, and support here for caregivers and aging adults. Again, please like, share my YouTube channel, share this channel with other people who are looking for hope, help, and support. I thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you all again soon in another video.